Thank you, Lucy.
Of the youth population in the United States has been reported being cyberbullied. That is 33 million children harassed on the internet by other children. A number so large can only be dealt with by the national government and criminal courts. Hi, my name is Allie Schaefer, and with my partner Gemma Gambardell, we will be affirming the resolve that cyberbullying should be a criminal offense for the following reasons: that the issue of cyberbullying needs to be addressed on a national level, and criminal courts would effectively address cyberbullying. But we'd like to begin this debate by defining the following applicable terms. We are defining cyberbullying as a situation when a child or teenager is persistently tormented, threatened, harassed, or otherwise targeted by another teenager using text messages or other digital technology. This is done in cases where the perpetrator has obvious intent to harm their victim. And we are defining a criminal offense as 3 subunits: felony, misdemeanor, and regulatory offense. So all offenses won't fall under the same umbrella. They will be judged based on their severity. Now to begin with our first contention. The issue of cyberbullying needs to be addressed on a national level. In order to properly thwart cyberbullying, a uniform standard must be instated on a national level. This needs to be addressed nationally because cyberbullying can span across the nation. State legislations are inadequate because cyberbullying is not confined to state lines. The internet knows no state borders. A teenager in Connecticut could cyberbully somebody in Washington as easily as they could cyberbully their next-door neighbor. Additionally, few states have any form of cyberbullying legislation. Currently, only 13 out of 50 states, a meager 26% of our country, have any form of cyberbullying legislation, according to the National Crime Prevention Council. The federal government is also better equipped to deal with cyberbullying than individual states. The federal government has better funding and more resources. It is hard to pinpoint where cyberbullying originated and who the perpetrators really are. Therefore, only the government, with its surplus of power and intelligence resources, can guarantee justice. Moving on to our second contention. Criminal courts would effectively address cyberbullying. Criminal courts are the most effective in addressing cyberbullying because cyberbullying in many cases is much more malicious and detrimental than traditional bullying, and criminalizing it will make an effective deterrent. Cyberbullying is inherently different and more radical than traditional bullying. Cyberbullying lacks any form of supervision, unlike a school where traditional bullying might occur. Cyberbullying has an unlimited audience that can spread to thousands, and the internet desensitizes the bully, as many will say things on the internet that they would never say in person. The bully, therefore, cannot gauge the response or the emotions of the victim. Another way this is different from traditional bullying is that the identity of the bully is not always known. For instance, one could create a fake Facebook account under a pseudonym, and the victim would have no way of knowing their true identity. It is really necessary to affirm this resolve because criminalizing cyberbullying acts as an effective deterrent. It sends cyberbullies a clear message that such behavior is not tolerated, thus establishing a zero-tolerance policy. This would also simplify the justice process by allowing schools to have prevention education about cyberbullies. Currently, schools have been sued for punishing kids for cyberbullying outside the school environment, as it is not a criminal offense, so this would prevent that. In conclusion, we can only protect those 33 million children who have been victims of cyberbullying by affirming this resolution. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Markey, and my partner Michael Keelan, and I will be firmly negating the resolution that cyberbullying should be a criminal offense. Now I'm going to outline the major theme that the negative is going to pose throughout this debate, and that is that the con acknowledges that action must be taken in some form, but the affirmative proposal on a national level doesn't tackle the root cause of the issue, and thus affects no change in this instance. We accept their definition of cyberbullying, but at the same time, we'd like to contest their definition of a criminal offense and accentuate the fact that they need to prove intent. There's a legal term called mens rea, which is going to be essential throughout this debate, and they will have to prove that in order to uphold that definition. Now, I'm going to outline our 3 major points and then elaborate upon them individually. Our first of that is that the resolve is reactionary and not preventative. Our second is that criminal proceedings are not the best way to address the issue, and our third is that the resolve will place an enormous burden on the criminal justice system and will criminalize a large portion of the youth population. Now, in regards to our first contention, this resolution is reactionary rather than preventative. We should really be focusing on the root causes of the issue, which are sort of start out in the schools and in education, and not increasing the penalties with which these students are punished. We need to ingrain in our culture that this is an unacceptable action, and that can be only achieved through education and within the school system, something that's done on the local level. This is not an issue that the national government can just legislate. This resolution could just as easily create a forbidden fruit complex, which an example would be after the Drinking Age Act was passed in 1984. From 1984 to 1993, the rates of underage drinking jumped from 24% to 36%, thus not affecting any change and not doing any sort of good in this society. Subpoint 2, the debating the punishment will not reverse the crime in the first place. According to Jonathan Strickland of Discovery News, another reason I don't like cyberbullying legislation is that it's reactionary rather than preventative. We should be focusing on the cause of bullying rather than how to punish bullies. This segues into subpoint B, which is that preventative efforts need to be exerted on the local level so as to foster awareness and take deterring measures, something that the affirmative cannot achieve. We need to focus on education, a zero-tolerance, 3 strikes out policy, mediation programs. All of these are successful and can only be done without the intervention of the federal government. Contention 2, criminal proceedings are not the best way to address the issue. Subpoint A, the resolve would arbitrarily force every case under the same umbrella of consideration, regardless of severity. Although the affirmative has laid out a definition of criminal offense to break it down into 3 levels, what they will inevitably do is only take the cases, because the criminal justice system is currently burdened and can't handle that many cases, they'll only take the felonies, and thus that is, according to a study I'll point out, over 15% of cases. Subpoint B, the proposed federal legislation will damage the integrity of the criminal justice system because in order to effectively hold up the criminal justice system without collapsing on itself, they'll have to pick and choose cases, thus gambling with people's lives. This segues into contention 3, which is that the resolve will place an enormous burden on the criminal justice system and will criminalize a large portion of the youth population. The fiscal and capital resources required to enforce federal intervention would detract from other operations of the criminal justice department. Just as a point of perspective, juvenile courts are currently equipped to hold about 100,000 juveniles, according to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency. Even if there is only a small portion of the youth criminalized and put under proceedings and imprisoned in the juvenile court system, that is still going to be something that we cannot sustain. The high costs are also detracting from other functions, as I'll explain. But essentially, this resolution inappropriately targets large demographics of the youth population. According to the IC Foundation, 50% of adolescents have been engaged in cyberbullying. We cannot affirm this resolution. We cannot criminalize and potentially incarcerate over 12 million students, 120% increase. That is not sustainable, and thus you must negate the resolution. Thank you.